Happy 4th of July weekend. The wait is almost over. Rookies report to the SAP Performance Facility in Santa Clara on July 18th. Veterans follow on July 25th. The first full team practice is July 26th. We are 20-something days from actual football, from actual pads, from the kind of competition that tells you things that no amount of OTA footage or minicamp clips can tell you. And today we are doing two things. We are going to preview the 4 training camp position battles that are going to define this season, and then we are going to have some fun with history. Because LeBron James going into free agency this week got us thinking about the greatest free agent acquisitions in NFL history. Stick around, because one of the names on that list belongs to this franchise. Let's get into it. Let's start with the training camp battles, because this is the football that matters heading into late July. And there are 4 competitions on this roster that are genuinely wide open, genuinely competitive, and genuinely consequential for how good this team can be in 2026. The first one is the most impactful position battle on the entire roster. Left guard. Robert Jones versus Carver Willis versus Connor Colby versus Brett Toth. 4 players, 1 starting spot, and every single snap at left guard will be taken either by Brock Purdy's best friend or his worst nightmare, because that position sits directly inside of Trent Williams' responsibility, inside of Jake Brendel's responsibility, and right in Purdy's sightline from his natural pocket height. An interior guard who gets beaten consistently, who lets defensive linemen into Purdy's chest on every 3rd and 7, is the single most limiting factor on what this offense can accomplish. And Kyle Shanahan has already publicly said the team needs to get better as a running team. You cannot get better as a running team without better interior push. Left guard is where that improvement either happens or does not. Robert Jones brings the most experience as an NFL starter. He has been on active rosters and played real minutes at the position. Connor Colby has the advantage of incumbency and system familiarity. He is the only one of the 4 who has been in this playbook before, and in a Shanahan offense where communication and alignment are everything, that matters. Carver Willis is the investment, a 4th-round pick in the 2026 draft who the team clearly values as a future piece. And Brett Toth might be, in terms of pure overall ability, the most complete player of the 4. He has played tackle, guard, and center in his NFL career. He brings position versatility and competitive toughness that forces the coaching staff to keep him on the roster regardless of whether he wins the starting job. Coming out of minicamp, Colby has what appears to be the slight edge, but in training camp with pads on, against Osa Odigizua and Romello Height coming off the edge every practice, everything gets rewritten. Everything. This one is going to be decided on the practice field with real contact. We cannot wait to watch it play out. The second battle is the safety competition, and while it is wide open and will be fun to watch, we should be honest about one thing heading in. This group is the weakest position on the entire roster. Not by a little. Warren Sharp ranked the 49ers secondary 26th in the league. The starting safety roles this summer will be contested among Malik Mustafa, Marquise Searle, Jakeem Brown, and Ashton Davis. And while all 4 have real attributes, none of them has been consistently elite. Mustafa has the physicality and the flying around the field energy that Brian Flores loves in a safety. But there were moments last year where he should have been benched. Searle has the athleticism to cover ground, but has been inconsistent. Brown was actually benched at points last season. And Davis, signed this offseason, brings genuine closing speed. He was an All-American in the 110-meter hurdles at Cal, but has been a fringe starter throughout his career rather than a top-end player. The honest evaluation, whoever wins the starting safety spots is going to need to be significantly better in 2026 than any of them was in 2025. The scheme under Raheem Morris will help. His background as a defensive backs coach is directly applicable to developing this group. The communication requirements that Fred Warner establishes on the defensive side of the ball will elevate everyone around him. But this unit coming into camp as the clear weak link is a real and legitimate concern that training camp needs to start answering. If one or two of these guys becomes the player his best film suggests he can be, the secondary becomes solid. If none of them does, this becomes the exploitable soft spot that opposing offensive coordinators will find in October. The third battle is the depth cornerback competition, and we are calling it an honorable mention specifically because these players are not competing for starting spots. Diamador Lenoir and Renardo Green are your starters. But the competition itself is genuinely fascinating, and the result of it matters for the team's injury depth. Jack Jones, Darrell Luter, Nate Hobbs, and rookie Ephesians Prysock are all fighting for the 2 or 3 available depth corner spots. Jack Jones has the most impressive starting history of the group. Hobbs was signed early in free agency with what appeared to be the inside track. Luter is the incumbent who has been in this system. And Prysock comes in as the draft investment, a rookie with elite length and athleticism who the 49ers spent a 4th-round pick on with full knowledge that the secondary needs an infusion of talent. At least one of these 4 players is going to be cut at the end of training camp. Maybe 2. And none of them should feel safe. The recent history of Trey Brown, favored to win the backup corner job last preseason, released before the regular season, is a cautionary tale that applies to every one of these players. Earn it. On the practice field. Every single day. And the 4th battle is perhaps the most fun to watch, both because of the football stakes and because of the personalities involved. Wide receiver 3. Dejon Stribling versus Christian Kirk versus Jacob Cowing and the rest of the depth chart for the meaningful snaps behind Mike Evans and Ricky Pearsall. Now, the starting hierarchy of Evans, Pearsall, Kirk, and Stribling as locks has been widely reported, and that seems right. Mike Evans is not getting cut. Ricky Pearsall is not getting cut. Christian Kirk is not getting cut. Dejon Stribling, the 2nd-round pick the 49ers specifically built this offseason around, is not getting cut. But within that group and in determining who gets what kind of role, the competition is fierce. Stribling earned the biggest headlines of OTA Week by smoking cornerbacks on deep post routes and displaying the vertical threat this offense has been missing for 2 years. He has every tool to be a legitimate number 3. Size, speed, catch radius, willingness to block in the run game. Kirk brings veteran reliability and refinement in the slot, the kind of high-floor precision that makes him invaluable in third-down situations. Cowing, if he can stay healthy for more than 5 consecutive weeks, brings a pure speed element that nobody else on this roster has. And Mike Evans himself said Cowing has a lot of juice and has been making plays that impress people who do not impress easily. The receiver 3 competition is going to produce a depth chart that is significantly more layered and more dangerous than what the 49ers have had at this position group in years. That is a genuinely exciting development heading into the season. Now let us have some fun. Because LeBron James entering NBA free agency this week got us thinking about the greatest free agent acquisitions in sports history. And specifically in the NFL, there are 4 names that stand above every other free agent signing in the history of the league. The original. The first. The one who made all of it possible. Reggie White, the Minister of Defense. Every player who has ever signed a free agent contract in the NFL owes something to what Reggie White did in 1993. The original and arguably still the best free agent signing of all time. Deion Sanders to the San Francisco 49ers in 1994. And yes, this one belongs to this franchise, and yes, it is the greatest single-season free agent acquisition in this franchise's history. Sanders signed before the 1994 season, the season the 49ers won the Super Bowl, and what he did that year was genuinely historic. Defensive Player of the Year, Super Bowl champion, an interception in the Super Bowl, and somehow finished third in MVP voting that year, tied with Jerry Rice behind Steve Young and Barry Sanders of Detroit, which means the 1994 49ers had 3 different players receive MVP votes in the same season. That team was built different. Sanders spending only 1 season in San Francisco before leaving for Dallas feels like the greatest one and done in NFL history, but what a 1 year it was. Peyton Manning to the Denver Broncos in 2012 is the most improbable great signing of the group. Manning was 35 years old, coming off a neck surgery so serious that many doctors believed he might never play again. The 49ers were rumored to be pursuing him, which is a fascinating parallel to this era where San Francisco is always adjacent to the great quarterback stories without quite landing the ultimate one. Manning ended up in Denver and delivered the best statistical season of his entire career, 55 touchdown passes, breaking the all-time record, and then bookended his career with a Super Bowl championship in 2015. 15 teams could have signed Manning that offseason. Only one did, and that one team got a Hall of Famer playing the best football of his life for 4 more years. Tom Brady to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2020. Brady was 42 years old. Brady had never played a single professional down outside of New England. Brady was not the player he was in 2007 or 2012 or 2016. And Tampa Bay signed him anyway, built around him instantly, and in his first season won the Super Bowl while playing the game literally in their home stadium. You sign Brady and you immediately get a Super Bowl. That is the deal. The Buccaneers made that deal. It worked exactly as advertised. The greatest quarterback of all time changing teams at age 42 and immediately winning a championship is genuinely one of the most remarkable storylines in the history of professional football. And the 49ers Mount Rushmore, since we are here on this show talking about the greatest players in franchise history between 2000 and now, has been officially decided by this community. Joe Staley, Fred Warner, Frank Gore, George Kittle, 2 players from the Harbaugh era, 2 from the Shanahan era, and 1 Joe Staley who bridged the gap between them. Every one of them a 49ers player in the truest sense. Frank Gore spent 10 years in San Francisco before ever leaving, which means even the one player on the list who eventually wore another uniform was a 49er for a decade first. The franchise loyalty angle mattered to this community, and it should. The players who become Mount Rushmore players are the ones who give you everything and make the uniform feel like it means something specific. Those 4 did that. And with Fred Warner and George Kittle still actively playing, still producing at a high level, still building their legacy every single Sunday, the Mount Rushmore is not finished adding chapters, it is just documenting what has already happened. Training camp is coming, fast, 20 days from full contact, 20 days from the battles that will define this season. Go Niners, and have a fantastic 4th of July weekend. Subscribe to the channel if you are not already there. Drop a comment below with your answer to the question of the day. Which training camp battle do you think is the most consequential for the 49ers season? Left guard, safety, the corner depth, or the wide receiver rotation? We want to hear from you. And leave your thoughts on the Mount Rushmore too. Did we get it right? Go Niners.